everybody, Julia and Sue's back to talk about the missing ingredient.
Hello.
I seem to have got a little crazed.
Yes. So this week we're going to be talking about starts and initial assessments and what you can do with your systems to make them more efficient, to make them more audit proof, and to make sure that you're doing things in the right way to manage contract, but also in a timely way for maximizing claim in month, because that is always really important as well. And we're going to focus, Julia's going to talk quite a lot about this. I will talk about it from an operational point of view, but Julia is going to talk about it from a skills quality pedagogy point of view because of the work that we did in a previous organization around how we transformed our systems in this space.
Yes. So, the starting question for leaders and managers to ask themselves is your early leaver rate low enough? The real early leaver rate, as opposed to whatever you've managed to juggle.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Um,
really important, right? Because, and I say this quite often on the A to Z, that if you don't have really robust, thought out strategies about the kind of learners that you want in your programs and how you're going to do a hard no to not the right learner for the right course or for not the right employer to engage with because of their business practices, your early leaver rate is going to go through the roof because
maybe not through the roof, but it's going to be higher than it could
it's going
be.
to be higher. It's going to be higher than it should be based on the excellence of what your staff normally deliver in terms of learning.
And learner quality and employer quality are two key variables that we can manage and control in order to maximize achievement.
Exactly.
Now, there's evidence of plenty of providers over screening and
Mm,
not stretching enough. So, this isn't necessarily about over screening, it's about the Goldilocks of screening, getting it just right.
that's sweet spot.
Yes, Goldilocks of screening. But there are also plenty of providers, and let's face it, it is a constant wire juggling act. I
Yeah,
think I got that one a little bit confused between maximizing performance financially and maximizing performance for success rates.
yeah, yeah,
And there
absolutely.
are times where we have to lower our standards in terms of who we're signing up in order to hit our starts targets. Because if we don't hit the start target, we don't have the right number of learners in training, we're going to go out of business.
Yeah, but it's that thing, isn't it? It's all about managing your staff learner ratios. It's about managing the cash flow into the business. It's all of
It's
those
all of
things
these things.
are really, really important. How,
So, knowing the quality of the learners that you're taking on and actually having opinions about what does a level 2 learner look like, what does a level 3 learner look like, what does a level 4 learner look like, in terms of their previous qualifications, experience, background, all of these things. Having opinions about these things does impact later achievement. Also, you can set these rules. It makes it easier for your staff to follow the rules. And it means that we can then have conversations strategically about whether or not we need to change these rules.
yeah, and I don't know if you remember this, but we used to have a data-driven set of rules that would pull down where learners had applied to come into learning or employers had got in touch with us to bring somebody into learning on the apprenticeship side of things for this particular thing. And we had a good to go list.
Yep.
So and it was data, it was supported by data. So we had decided strategically what level of previous learning, what level of literacy and numeracy, what level of experience in work, etc., depending on the level of the learner. Obviously, getting more and more.
So, yeah, so part of the thing you have to do if you're going to have these rules is to then have the data systems in place
That's
to
what I
be
was saying.
able to evidence compliance with the rules. So the starting point is your application form.
Yeah,
And it's interesting, again, working across providers, how some really don't ask many questions at all at application. So that's restricting our ability to inform decision making. It's looking at the information that you're getting from the employer around job role, the kinds of things, how good a fit is that job role with the qualification, with the apprenticeship. Um, we are required for an awful lot of funding streams to do functional skills initial assessments. So, first of all, has the learner even done them?
That.
That one.
That.
Two, what was the score? Three, how does that relate to previous qualifications?
Yeah.
Particularly around functional skills, previous qualification impacts eligibility for future funding for a whole bunch of things. So, do they have a GCSE in maths? Have they uploaded the certificate? What did they get in their BKSB? If I've got a GCSE grade A, supposedly, and I've just come out at entry one, whoop, whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
something's going on there.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So the whole idea was, for what we had all of these different bits of information all captured electronically because of the systems that we had,
All
that
in
were
one report.
through into one report which said good to go. And that meant senior managers in the business could make decisions about whether that learner and that employer should then be contacted to go out for an initial visit or not. Because actually, if somebody hasn't done their initial assessments, they're not good to go.
No. And from a strategic management perspective, there's a couple of things. One of the biggest flashpoints that we haven't yet talked about in this series is actually between the business development team, the people going out, finding learners, talking to learners pre-start, talking to employers who are out doing that initial activity. One of the biggest flashpoints is between them and then the ops staff, the tutors, absolutely. The assessors on the what the is that?
And sales teams, being sales teams, are going to be focusing on KPIs, bonuses on hitting target, and it doesn't matter how many times you say to them, somebody getting an E2 cannot do a level 3 qualification.
And by the time that learner has been signed as an in training, it is too late.
Yeah, you've got to do what you can do to try and
support. So you've got to preempt it.
Yeah.
And that means actually having systems and processes in place whereby senior managers can actually influence that decision making.
Yeah.
And it's also about making sure you've got systems and processes in place to hold those BD people accountable, to make sure that the paperwork is completed properly.
So
because too many times you see the people later in the process having to pick up the pieces of the person at the beginning who did the sign up.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they might have been signing 20 learners that day. They're allowed to be fuzzy.
Yes.
Miss a few things. It happens to all of us. Yeah. But if we don't fix it there, then it has a habit of not getting fixed. And then you just create this horrible thing. So it's creating that culture of right first time, which means we have to be tough on people. If we've got great data systems in place, we can be tough on people. And we're implying that having great data systems in place is, I don't want people to get the impression that it's beyond them. If you're using ready-made software that's on the market that works for you, but doesn't answer all of these questions, it is possible to add reporting onto it to answer the questions.
Absolutely.
If your way of operating is across 3, 4, 5, 6 bits of software, which is entirely normal, you can still add on reporting to answer the questions that you need. But it comes back to this IT confidence, the missing ingredient that we keep talking about in this series, around you as the leader and the manager going, this is not fit for my purpose, and I want to do something about it.
Yeah, and I would just like to say that I think for some people it'll be counterintuitive, where if you don't ask the questions, then you don't have to worry about the starts. So therefore, with the we need to meet cash target this month, it's a lot easier to do that than it is to really examine and maybe be a bit more picky about the learners and the employers that you work with. That's not wrong to think like that, but when you get it right, your reputation goes up. Yeah,
Absolutely. And having fewer early leavers built into the system, it supports everybody to do their job better because there's less
absolutely.
churn. You're dealing with less bureaucracy in terms of weeding out those people. So if we
Yeah,
can weed them out sooner, then it's
yeah,
actually better. Um,
absolutely better. It
it's
takes a while
easier.
to get your head around it because that idea of, well, we've got a start target at 50 for this month, so we need to get 50 on the nose this month, where you might have to then make a strategic decision that 10 of those 50 probably aren't going to be able to make it to the end. And that's bad for the learner and it's bad for the business because you're actually setting up people to fail in a lot of cases, which is just horrid because you want to build people's
And
confidence.
a lot of what we were doing when we were checking these is actually assessing whether or not that course and that piece of funding was the right decision for the learner. So if they
Yeah,
don't meet the eligibility to do a level three apprenticeship, then that doesn't mean that they don't meet the eligibility to maybe do the same qualification via a 24 plus adult learning loan.
yeah.
Um, or actually, it's not
Or
the level three that's appropriate. They
AEB,
should be doing a level two.
yeah. Or AEB, I was to say a level two, or a
Yeah.
AEB level three entitlement if you're
Or
19 to 24.
actually, we should be boot camping because, yeah, the whole
Yeah,
thing is more appropriate. So it's about getting the learner in the right
yeah,
place. And that fundamentally has at its heart kind of independent advice and guidance.
yeah.
Our job to do the right thing by the learner
Yes,
actually makes our job later on easier
that's
because
it.
once we've taken that learner into training, we've made that massive commitment. We're going to get you through. We're going to move heaven and earth to try and get you through. Well,
Yes,
yeah, wouldn't it be nice to only have to move heaven, not just the earth? Because actually, we've taken on better quality learners. We've made our
absolutely.
life easier. Um, and
Absolutely.
I love the difficult ones
I know you
so
do.
much,
I know you
where
do.
you get to stand there and go, I'm good.
We're
But
good.
actually, if every learner is that tough, you are killing yourselves and you're killing your staff.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, it's about how you can have these systems and processes in place. In terms of the good to go stuff, either you or I would be looking at that every single day.
Yeah. We'll
But
be.
then, from a contract management perspective, that good to go list was the start of our
Yeah.
process. If we want to hit the contract, if I've got to get 50 learners signed this month, 2 months ago, I should have been looking at who's on that good to go list
Absolutely.
because it takes time for learners to come through. So
Absolutely.
it's part of that sales pipeline of knowing what's there. And again, if a senior person is looking at that stuff and interrogating it, we can then go and have a conversation with the marketing department.
Yeah.
We can come
Absolutely.
up with can we be doing? What do we need to be doing to be generating and roughly, generating some new leads because it's really quiet at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you're not all over it like a rash, actually you're making life more difficult for yourself to hit
Absolutely.
the contract. Um, and it was, yeah, it's kind of the integration of tech and people, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, I go back to it's not tech for tech's sake. It is about really having really good, efficient systems that increase productivity, free up staff time to do the 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 good sign up rather than the running around scrubbing around stuff. Increases profitability for sure. It will be scary. I get that it might be scary at first, but not every start is a good start. Not every start
Oh,
is a good start for your business. And actually getting all of your business to think like that will lead to a better quality of start, a better quality of employer, and better outcomes to manage a core. And if you want to continue to deliver learning, we all know everyone in the skills landscape, or maybe three geniuses, have had difficulties with core over the last few years. Understandably so. I mean, COVID had a massive impact on the industry. But if you're planning to get back to where you need to be to benchmark yourself well nationally against your competitors, who you're taking at the start really matters.
yeah, and having good processes in place. And again, it's that IT confidence. So Yeah, if any of this stuff has resonated with you, please get in touch. We would love to talk to you about how we can help you be more marvelous.
Absolutely.